shoot, it says there's an error. Hello, welcome to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. You're listening to the experts today on Going Bold Media, media.com, goingboldmedia.com. So just check out all of our wonderful hosts and guests that we have there, and you'll just be really pleased with all that you're listening to, because we've got some really cool shows there for you. But we are talking about Goodreads today. We're talking about LinktoEXPERT Goodreads Authors Corner. I am Cece Shatz, the doyenne of relationship building, and I have my good friend here, Joanne. Joanne?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Joanne Weiland, Why Land When You Can Fly, the founder of the collaborative cloud community LinktoEXPERT, where you can find an expert in minutes and hire them, or you can be found as an expert so others can hire you.
So definitely check it out, LinktoEXPERT.com. So we're going to move very quickly to our author today, because we've got a lot of information that we're going to be sharing with you. So let's bring Randy up. And Joanne, you want to do the introductions?
Sure. Randy Peyser and I have been collaborating, working together for years, actually since 2007, 6 years. Eleanor Stutz, one of our members of LinktoEXPERT, introduced me to Randy. She said, you got to get to know Randy. When I wrote my book about women, that she actually helped me to not just get it published, but to also get it in Time magazine. And so, Randy, we're just so thrilled, because I love when you always say that you create that appendix. What? No, not appendix.
Call it, yeah. We create book appendectomies to get the book inside of you out.
I couldn't think of how to say the word, but I love it, getting that book out of you, because almost everybody I talk to says, I have a book inside of me. I'm going to write a book, or whatever. So Randy Peyser, welcome, 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 because we want to learn more about how you do it, because I really feel like so many things have changed over the last few years with the pandemic and stuff, the way that most authors would have traditionally, or even how you helped so many authors get a book deal. So I would really welcome you sharing what you do, and then how it's changed, or what's different now, and what we need to do now to get our book out there.
So many of us want to make an impact. We have whatever that dream is inside of us, and we know we want to reach more people. I love helping first-time authors get book deals with the New York publishers. I mean, right. That's what I do. And I can open doors for people incredibly quickly, because I know what they want. Because I always tell people, there's a book you might want to write, but there's a book a reader's going to buy or a publisher's going to buy. Are they the same book?
No.
So, I love to help people get there so they can make their impact. I mean, that's really the truth of it.
Yes, I do think that's a good way to go deeper. I think a lot of us think that, we know what they want, but do we really? Because if we don't give what the reader wants and what the publisher wants, we probably aren't going to sell many books, if any at all.
Well, that's very, very true. So let's look at what's trending now. Is AI trending? Absolutely. I'm just talking the last 2 months alone. So I can tell you what's trending, because this is what I've sold. I sold a book on AI for business. I sold a book on long-term customer retention, again, in the business category. I sold a book on the future of work. I sold a book related to autism. I sold a book related to conscious living. And I recently had an oracle deck come out for 2 women from an indigenous tribe that's never been represented in print. And last week I sold a transgender novel. So you start looking at, it's this great variety of different kinds of stories and, different kind of information that people want to share to make their impact in the particular way that they want to make it.
Right. It's so true. I mean, we really do need to look at what's trending. And a lot of times what I find is that we have a gold mine right there in our office or in our computer, that we actually have a lot of content, and we just need to know like what's trending to actually, if you will, edit it, and you are so good at that. You help them with their ghostwriting, with their editing, to make it more trendy at the time.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'll just share with you one of the things I'm very excited about. We had a book that came out recently that we worked on, edited, called The Skincare Hoax. And the author, Dr. Fane Fry, is in serious talks with PBS for her own national TV special. And so, like, yeah, I mean, like my first time authors who have been in Oprah magazine, featured in Oprah magazine. And you mentioned Eleanor Stutz winds up in Time magazine.
Right.
And, my first time authors in airport bookstores and FedEx
That
office
must be so
stores.
exciting to go to the airport and you see
I
your
know,
book.
it's thrilling. It's so exciting. That's happened to me just being at a Hudson
USA
Booksellers.
Today, you also
And there's
had
my
some
authors.
USA Today. I remember USA Today, you had some in
Oh
there
yeah,
too.
USA Today, Wall Street Journal bestsellers. We had a book, The Tao of Influence, was on the Wall Street Journal
Right?
bestseller list for
The
7
Cosmo,
weeks. Yeah,
right?
Cosmo magazine. And so this is my fun because what I see that magic and miracles just open up and happen. Like even for me with my first book I wrote was called Crappy to Happy. And I
Right?
wrote it in the mid 90s. I started pitching it. And lo and behold, years later, I'm sitting in a movie theater, opening night of the movie Eat, Pray, Love, and there's Julia Roberts in a bookstore scene towards the beginning of the movie, holding up my book and buying it in a bookstore scene. I mean, things you just never could have predicted. I had no idea my book was going to be in the movie. But that's
Really?
what I see with traditional publishers. More doors will open for people who want to make their impact in the biggest way possible than when they
Yes.
self-publish.
Yes.
So, I like both methods of publishing for different reasons. And you kind of alluded to that at the beginning when you were introducing me, Joanne, where you were talking about, self-publishing and the publishing models have changed. And I'm never attached as to which way people want to go. I truly want what is highest and best for each person, depending on their goals. So I'd love to share with you, basically the pros and cons of each approach.
Yes, please.
So with self-publishing, I call this the speed to market option. You want to get a book out quickly, self-publish.
Okay.
Typically, unless your book is positioned where I think it could get a 6-figure deal, but typically you will make more money self-publishing per book.
Okay.
So I tell people in general terms, generally speaking, of course there are exceptions, but if you want to make more money per book, you want to get a book out quickly, you want control over every word in it, your cover design, your interior design, self-publish or hybrid publish. If, however, you want to make the largest impact possible on the greatest amount of people, definitely try for a traditional publisher because more doors will open for you towards media, towards speaking engagements, towards whatever your goal is. If you want to play in the big leagues, definitely try for a traditional publisher.
But do the traditional publishers actually help you with the marketing, Randy?
To some extent. The author is always responsible for the marketing, but I want to share with you a secret. And it's a secret you already know. If you're not the best marketer in the world, or it's not in your genius, delegate. Delegate.
Yes.
Go to people like Joanne right here. Go get on a podcast. Get on these podcasts. Get yourself visible.
Because we can't do it all. I mean, you and I alone, I looked before we got on, we've referred each other to 42 people. I mean, and
that's wonderful.
And it's because of the fact that we know you have to delegate. We know we don't know how to do everything. And because of that we actually do know that it's so important to automate as many things as possible, as well as delegate to somebody else that can do it better than you, or even as good as you, so you can focus on what you do best. And I think people really forget it's not just about saving the money and the time that they think when they're doing it themselves, but they're also saving their reputation. Because Randy, when you do it yourself, like the first website I ever created, looked like a second grader created it, and I had even gone back to the university to learn how to do it back then. But who was gonna think, oh, let me hire an expert from this woman, because of the fact that it looks like she's in second grade and drew this up. And so it's so important to remember it also saves your reputation, and not even saves it, just elevates it when they're like, you look larger than life.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was noticing too that you're like a publishing coach, aren't you? So you
Very much so. I call myself a book broker. It's a term I actually invented. People have called me a book midwife, a book doula, a book shepherd. But the truth is, I'm the person with over 20 years of connections, and I'm talking about first name connections with, McGraw-Hill, Wiley, HarperCollins, and, the top agents. Like the last time I was in New York pre-COVID, I had 25 meetings in 2.5 days pitching 16 projects. I mean, and to me, that's my playground. That's me working in my genius.
Right.
And so, when I'm sending out a query letter, via email, because since COVID, there haven't really been the in-person meetings like there were before. Everything's via email now.
Well, you used to even go to Europe and everything. I remember, I do like.
Yeah, especially New York. I was in New York every single year. I was like in the feeding frenzy of the publishing industry, and that's my playground. Most people would be very intimidated with 40,000 people running around and everybody's looking to make their own connection. And I'm like, yes, 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 I'm on my playground. So we all have our playgrounds, the places where we find ease and joy and where we create success. I mean, and so the publishing industry is my playground.
Yes.
And so, I would be in New York and just, pitching like crazy and learning over so many years what publishers want, what they don't want, and just knowing the difference. Or let's say an author's 3/4 of the way to what they want. I know the information that they need to bring them all the way, how to tip the sale in their favor.
Because I'm sure all the different publishing houses do have different ideas of what's trending for them. I mean, that list that you just told us, which is priceless, but also which one is looking for AI, for an example, right now, and so that's so key. And also just not knowing which one, but what person within there or what group of people that you need to pitch it to, because that in itself would take years. And don't forget, not only does it take years, but a lot of times it changes too. They either get promoted or leave or, something.
Yes.
So you're always having to know who's who, where. It's just not that simple, in other words.
That's absolutely correct. But whenever I'm on an initial call with someone, like I like to do like a free discovery call. Let's just talk. Let me find out what the project is, and I will know within minutes of asking the right questions where that project needs to go, who would be interested in it or not. Because I know the playing field. These are all people I have personal relationships with, where we like each other's fuzzy dog pictures and emojis on Facebook or on they're real relationships that I have fostered over many years.
Yes. I mean, just for an example, with every time you used to come in town here, we would go out for Thai food. And, you really do know the people and what they like. And we both know each other loves Thai. So we just always go for
That's
Thai.
right. That's exactly right.
Example of it's, like you have that relationship, like you said, and that goes so far in the publishing industry, because those publishers, I mean, I know you told me the numbers. I'm trying to remember how many get pitched every, month.
Yeah, well, I'll just refresh your memory then. I was sitting with one publisher, this was years ago. And he said he gets 10,000 manuscripts a year. So if we break that down, divided by 12, that's 860 a month. And it's my job to get my people to the top of that pile. And that's what I do.
Right.
And not only that, but I have literary agents. I mean, I have multiple agents who have done 6-figure deals and big bidding wars for my clients. And, so when I have a project, that's right for an agent, I have one agent who's told me, Randy, I hope I fast track every project you send me. Well, why? Because I've sent her projects that have done, incredibly well.
Right.
I have another one who said, Randy, I'm getting 1,000 submissions a month. I don't even look at my email. When you have something for me, text me.
Oh,
I mean, agents, these are real relationships.
Right. And it's true, because they get bombarded every day.
Yes.
And, and usually they're probably just like you deal with these first-time authors, so they don't know what they're doing, and it would be a lot of extra work for them to bring it to market. Right. Where with you, they know that you already vetted them, you already, helped them with the rewriting, with the editing, and, even the covers. And people don't realize all the things that go into the book. It's not just writing the book.
Well, that's true. I mean, we edit books, we ghostwrite books. My team has been with me, most people have been with me for over 15 years.
Wow.
They all come, and my criteria is extremely high. Every editor or ghostwriter I work with or who I hire has to have edited or ghostwritten many books that have sold to traditional publishers or have worked in those roles for traditional publishers. So not only are we getting the content right, I tell people my lane is narrow. My lane is get the content right. So we're doing book coaching, analysis, editing, or ghostwriting,
Right.
and get this old book to a publisher or under contract with a literary agent. That's it. That is my lane. So I'm not the big promoter gal.
Right.
That's not my lane.
Right. So you get it there, and then
Yes.
it goes on from there. Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. That's great. That's great.
And then we can expose them to the world. We do that fairly well. So yes, but
Yes,
again, it's
that's
all
right.
about
That's
everybody
exactly right.
staying in their lane and doing what they do best. And together, it's amazing what we can accomplish. Look at Cece. Over the last 12 years, she's got us on 57, actually, I think it's 59 now, different radio, TV, and podcast networks. I mean, that takes time. It takes effort. It takes knowing, like, Cece, you can chime in anytime, but I'm telling you what was important to me, what she said was so many people, they're on one or two or three networks, and she's thinking, they're thinking people are going to come to that network to see them or hear them, where why don't you just go to where they are and make it easy, because they're used to being on Apple TV
You're right. We did get it.
Okay, maybe we're going to take a break.
I apologize for this test that's taking place.
So can we go into break maybe?
Yeah, let's do a break. So do apologize. I think it's done now. So we're done now, but we can do a break. So we do apologize for that. We will try to edit that out. I jumped sky high, but yeah, that's true. All right. Well, you guys, we're listening to the Author's Corner here on Link to Experts, and we have Randy Peyser with us. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Peyser.
And you're the author you're founder of the Author One Stop. And so we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, hopefully we won't scare everybody with the alarms that's going on, but we do appreciate you. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm John Thomas. I want to share with you a professional products and services directory we call Going Solo Directory. And you need to check this out. If you want exposure to your business or are seeking professional product or services, this directory has it all. And that membership, for the many special features, you get the benefit of a worldwide exposure with a 40-minute video interview on an international business show showcase. All this for just one low annual fee. For more information, contact GoingSoloDirectory.com.
Welcome back to Link to Expert Goodreads Author's Corner. I am Cece Shatz, the Joanne of Relationship Building. I have my good friend here, Joanne Weiland. Joanne doesn't like to blow her horn, so I'm going to blow it for her. So she is the Chief Connections Officer. She's the founder of collaboration cloud community, LinktoEXPERT.com. If you haven't checked it out, you must check out that website because it is absolutely fascinating to be able to connect with all of those wonderful experts. So we are talking with Randy Peyser. We're talking about get a book deal with the publisher. There are many people out there now that are looking to write a book. So what the heck do you do with it after you write it? Well, you actually contact someone like Randy that's going to help you, tweak it, do it right, and then get it to a publisher and get a deal for you. So I think that's wonderful. Those of you that don't know Randy is the author of Crappy to Happy, as seen in the movie Eat, Pray and Love, and The Power of the Miracle Thinking. She also has a wonderful website, One Stop, author1stop.com. She's the founder of that. She ghostwrites and edits books. She offers book coaching and pitches manuscripts to literary agents and publishers. I mean, there's just like nothing you don't do, right? You've been on Wall Street. Your authors of their books have been on Wall Street Journal, USA Today, some of the bestsellers in Cosmo, Time Magazine, and Oprah Magazine, and around airport bookstores and wherever you find a good book. So very, I mean, it's very impressive, your work over the years and all that you've accomplished, Randy. So thank you so much for taking the time to be on the Link to Expert showcase here. We appreciate it.
Well, I have a question that I think everybody should know. Like, just say you do get to review what they've been doing, and it's not going to fly. And it's their baby that they just created this. Do you tell them their baby's ugly, or do you?
Well, let me share with you. Years ago, when I was working on my first book, my crappy to happy book, and I started a little writers, like a critique group, and there were just three of us. We were all working, and this is back in the 90s. So, back in the days when dinosaurs were still walking. But so there were three of us working on our first books. Two of us actually wound up becoming professionals in the book world, but of the three, which is really cool. But we would write each week, and then we would read, and we were afraid to give each other feedback because we didn't want to hurt each other's feelings.
Yeah.
And I came up with a way to provide feedback so we were able to give honest feedback without devastating one another. And so what we did was we discussed what are the strengths of the writing, the strengths and the weaknesses. The weaknesses that can be improved
good
upon.
idea.
So once everything was was couched in those terms, we were able to really support one another in strengthening our work. So yes, I am very honest with people. Like when we do an analysis, that's usually the first step. Let's say somebody writes their book and they brought us a manuscript in Word. So we're going to read it and use the comments bar in Word to point out anything that we're finding that really needs to be strengthened by the author themselves. And in that first reading round, we're also discerning, is this a book that we think an agent or publisher would be interested in buying? Because that's the bottom line. And right. I'll just tell people different things. For example, your writing is superb, but you don't have enough publicity to get a book deal yet. Here's people I recommend that you speak with so you can start building numbers, because numbers is part of the equation.
Is it?
Or I might say, the writing is just too weak. We'd be willing to do a second analysis once you've rewritten, because we've posted notes throughout your entire manuscript about what needs to be upgraded. Mm-hmm. So it could be absolutely any feedback that's appropriate for that person in that project. And I'd like to share a few tips, if I may.
Sure.
Because these are like common mistakes that first-time writers make. So one of the things I've discovered is that people have their pet words or their pet phrases. Okay. So for example, I was editing a book one time and I saw the word thus many times. And I'm thinking, we don't even sound like that in the way we speak now. There was another one where suddenly, it was like suddenly it's like everything an emergency. So, be careful about your pet phrase and repetitive language, especially terms in the same sentence or the same paragraph or the same two paragraphs. Vary the wording. And one of the ways to do that is you always want your dialogue or your wording not to sound stilted. So the way when I'm writing something, I mumble it to myself out loud, but I'm listening. I might sound like I'm like, but I'm hearing it in my head, as long as there's nobody else in the room thinking, I'm a person who needs services. But listen, does your dialogue sound realistic? Does it sound like a person actually speaks? One of my editors is a former publisher from Simon & Schuster. I mean, so everybody I work with, and I mean they're high level, they are the highest level. So anybody with like, you know, a thriller or suspense, any of those kinds of books, well, guess who's going to do the analysis of it? The guy who bought the books. And so, so I was interviewing him recently for one of my own webinars. And he said this one thing that I absolutely love, you know, in terms of writing dialogue, especially if you're writing fiction. He said that you're writing from the voice in your head, but every single character is going to have a different voice. And the voice in your head is not the same way that you speak. So how does your character actually speak?
Right. That's fascinating. Yeah.
We did have a comment from Mark Garcia. He'd like to know, he said, I would be interested in getting their contact information. So we're going to give it to you right now, Mark. So write it down here.
But that's really fascinating, Randy, because I do think that we sometimes do just think how we think, and even these characters, or maybe even multiple little me's, you know, but most of the time they're going to be a total different me. Like the three of us on this interview right now, we all think differently. We all feel different. We all, you know, have different experiences. So that's brilliant. Yes.
And there's different nuances in the way we express ourselves physically.
Right.
Like, you know, I have a strand of hair that keeps falling in my face, so I try to nonchalantly keep moving it out of my face. So, I mean, each of us, you know, we smile differently. Our facial expressions, just everything is, you know, is different. The way we look at people, and all that can be conveyed. Like, one of the biggest mistakes that people make, especially in fiction, and it's like a rule in the publishing industry, and maybe people have heard of this, maybe some people haven't, but the big rule is show, don't tell. And I want to explain the difference, because a lot of times when fiction comes in weak to us, it's because the person is telling and not showing. So when you're showing, you are mostly visually describing something. So if the reader closes their eyes or you close your eyes, you can visually see it. So there's a difference between saying the boy is cold and the boy pulled the top of his coat, you know, across his chest and shuddered. You know, so we all get a much more of a visual, here I am expressing it visually, but we get a visual experience of it that we wouldn't get by saying the boy is cold.
Right.
And describing emotions, you know, like, you know, especially he was angry, whatever. Well, show us what does that anger look like? Did he throw a chair? You know, did he pout? What was the degree of anger? You know, so just be as visual as possible, because so many people are visual, but don't neglect the other senses as well. What did the room smell like? What did the person smell like?
Yes, they say like 70 or 80% of the people are visual, but I've learned that the strongest sense we have out of the five senses is the sense of smell. So if you can actually describe it, like you're saying about, you know, showing how the scent of that field, or I'm trying to think of something real quick, but you know, was intoxicating because it reminded them of when they used to, you know, when they grew up on the farm or whatever.
Right. But there's also, like, I'm a very kinesthetic person. Like, here I am, you know, like touching my body even, you know, while we're speaking with my hands over my heart. And so, like, and notice the way in your language when you're writing, if you're using words like touching, this is touching, or they were connected, or I feel, well, that's a kinesthetic way of writing. If somebody says, you know, this rings a bell, that sounds right, they're auditory. You know, it looks like this. I see what you mean. You know, that's a person who's visual. So your characters can actually display different senses from that they come from.
Good point.
Yeah,
it really is. And I also thought of Cece recently, she used the word that open up your pocketbook. And we were kind of laughing because, like, people in New York call it a pocketbook, or they used to. And, you know, a lot of people would be like, what's a pocketbook? You know?
Yes. Or the slang of it, pocketbook, a pocketbook. You know, open your pocketbook. That's what I remember hearing. Yes.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I do want to apologize to the audience because it looks like we're having some technical problems, some lagging. So just
Oh,
bear with
okay.
us on the conversation. I hope that you're doing okay. Okay, so this one, Facebook user Franklin Douglas, check it out now or later. Not quite sure what he means by that, but
Yeah, could you give us more information possibly?
yeah, check it out now or later. Well, maybe he's going to check out your information now or later. Well, anyhow, I want to make sure I say it so we have that on our podcast when this drops down to podcast. You can find email Randy at Randy Randy at author AUTHOR 1 ONE stop.com. And then her website again is author1stop.com. So check it out. So yeah, if you're looking to get your book published, you need some advice, you need to be able to get this done. I mean, I will tell you, this is totally over my head because I'm not a big writer or anything. So I'm at awe that you guys are so great at this. But so definitely go to Author One Stop and check out all of her website and contact her directly and get your book published so that I can purchase it and read it because that I will do.
Well, and speaking of that, Randy, I was wondering, like, if they do choose to self-publish, do you then help them with that as well?
No, it's not my lane. I have referral partners for that,
Mhm.
which I'm happy to refer people to someone I trust. And that's really, really critical. I mean, if anybody they're set on self-publishing, I invite you, speak with me first. There are scam companies. I want to make sure you're not going to one. I actually stopped a person, helped them just yesterday, just saying, please get your book off of that particular platform. And they hadn't published with the person yet. I said, the reviews are really, really bad.
And do beware of their contracts. I've learned over the
Very
years.
much so. Very much so. Like I have a literary attorney I refer people to. You should always have a contract review. Always.
Well, like another thing that you've been doing lately, I call it your side hustle, whatever you want to call it, that you've been helping them take their book and make it into a screenplay.
Yes, I've gotten into film so much more, and my connections are so solid. So, for example, one of my connections, if you've written a children's book, I just interrupted myself, but if you've written a children's book and you want to have a consultation with one of the people from SpongeBob and Coco Melon, some of the hottest children's properties on Netflix, etc., I've got that connection.
That's great.
So, and also for films, I used to say adult films, but that's the wrong wording. But if you have a book that you could see your story going to Netflix or some other streaming service or whatever, or to film or a TV series, I have phenomenal connections, really phenomenal connections.
And that's so important to know because of the fact that a lot of times, I think anyway, the person that's writing the story, they can already picturing it on screen,
Yes.
but they have to take the steps, I think, to be able to maybe write the book first to get, or am I incorrect? I mean, because I really don't know.
They can come with an idea. They can come with an idea that a script is created from, or they can come with the book and then it would be converted into a script and then go through the various stages to get movie deals.
So it could be either way.
Yes. And it's very exciting. I mean, my connections are so high level and just wonderful people. And it's so important, I would say, especially in the movie industry, that you're working with people who are trustable. I mean, that's just critical.
Yes.
And publishing too. I mean, the traditional publishers, I've never had an issue with any traditional publisher hurting a person. I just haven't. But, I send everybody my confidentiality agreement. We have our, discovery call. And before anybody ever sends anything to me, they're getting my confidentiality agreement. I want them to know that their work is their work.
Right.
And before anybody sends anything anywhere, you should be getting confidentiality agreements from people. Get those signed NDAs.
Yes. And if you don't have one, that would be something I would recommend you do before you work with anybody. Yes. Because it's so important because you hear these horror stories all the time. I mean, recently I even heard of a story where in the contract from the publisher, they said if you if we decide that this is good for a screenplay, that you will not have any part of it, and we're going to take it and run with it. And but it was a small print, like, you know, in a small paragraph at the end of the contract. So just beware and do what Randy just said. You know, go get that contract reviewed before you sign it.
Yeah, yeah, that's a large part of the self-publishing model too, that I definitely would do. But again, the literary attorney who I refer people to,
Yeah.
will handle any kind of contract at all and just point out any red flags.
And I'm
Yeah.
not saying that it's going to happen to everybody, but just,
No.
protect yourself. I mean, you took all the time and effort and it came from inside of you, like Randy gets
Yes.
it out of you. It's, you don't want to lose it because of the fact that you
Yeah.
just didn't do
Now, I
your
wanted
duty.
to ask if you have like, let's say you have a story, right? You know that you've got a story, or you want a very interesting life or whatever, and you think, oh, this would make a good book, but you're not a writer. So can we go to you and do the ghostwriting? You would be able to ghostwrite?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
How do
So,
they do that? Is it like
so
through
the way ghostwriting, I'll just share how ghostwriting works. First,
Okay.
I match up because I know my ghostwriters and I know their subject matter.
Okay.
And, so I know like which ghostwriter would be the best for each person and their project. And
Right.
so then I set people up with a complimentary call because you want to feel very strong rapport with that person. They're capturing your voice and your message, and you just need to feel their energy. Really, it's an energy thing. You need to know that they're on the same page with you. And so the first is a complimentary conversation. And so then after that, if the person's interested, then we have an official contract. But this is how we work. The first phase is to create detailed chapter summaries. So this becomes the roadmap for the book. This is your table of contents, through a series of usually Zoom calls or phone calls, usually Zoom calls, just learning all the different aspects of like you're talking about memoir, for example, all the different aspects of a person's life, different things that might be featured, and then seeing what's the relevant information, putting it in the right chronological order so that the book is going to make sense. So the first phase is the roadmap. And then the next phase is writing. We write in 50-page increments, but the ghostwriter is not just going to say, here's 50 pages, do you like it? They're going to write a very short amount, maybe it's even 2 or 3 pages, because they want to know, are they capturing your voice and your message correctly? So that we can, tweak and correct. So a number of books we've done have gotten 6-figure deals that we've ghostwritten because we really know what we're doing.
Right.
We know how to do this.
Yeah. So people that are like me, that are intimidated by writing, and
Right.
you do have a story, you do have
Yes.
I think everybody's got a story in them, right? So we all have a story, and you want to get that out, you want to share that with the world, then
Yes.
you can certainly do that still. And that's nice to know. It's nice to know that you can. So yeah.
Oh yeah, totally. Another thing is, people want to write, but they want guidance as they go. So we do a similar thing with book coaching, where the first phase is the same as the ghostwriting, where we're going to create the detailed chapter summaries, figure out the theme and the detailed chapter summaries. So then the author has the roadmap. So instead of us writing it, they're writing chapter by chapter, and for each chapter, submitting it, getting information to revise, submitting it again with the revisions, getting more information for that second revision, and then at the end we do an editing round to polish it. And we did that recently for a book of literary fiction and got that sold to a publisher.
Well, and I think another part of it is that you have an accountability partner. You have them like on a schedule.
That's true.
Okay, by next Tuesday, you're going to have this chapter done. And I think more than we realize, especially as solo entrepreneurs or, small businesses, that when you don't have somebody else over you, demanding that you have a deadline, you need someone like a book coach to be able to keep you accountable, to keep it flowing. Don't you think?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, great information. Well, it looks like we're going to have to close. So are there any last words, Randy, you'd like to share with the audience?
Yes. This is the way I love to close talks on how to get a book deal with a publisher.
Okay.
A book is either an option, it's either your option or it's a priority. If it's an option, it will never get done. If it's a priority, you will make it happen and nothing will stop you. So that's the way I want to close.
Absolutely. I think spot on there. Don't you think? I think absolutely. Well, we want to thank you so much again. Send an email to Randy, RANDY, at author1ONE stop STOP.com. So author1stop.com. So we want to make sure that you know that. And then, just send her a question or whatever you have, any information that you have, and get your book published. Don't wait. Make it happen, right? Make it happen.
Right. You can do this with Randy's help.
Yeah. So you guys are listening to Link to Expert Goodreads Author's Corner. I am Cece Shatz, and I have my good friend Joanne Weiland here with me. And we just want to thank you so much for listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. Again, all of our information is on goingboldmedia.com. So check that out. So we'll catch you next time. Bye for now.
Thank you.